Hey guys, Prowl1701 here, and today we're going to be ranking my top 5 favorite Cybermen stories in Doctor Who. And I'm going to start off with an honorable mention, which is The Invasion. The Invasion's a fun story, Patrick Troughton story, and the first unit story. Or at least the first official unit story. Web of Fear was kind of a unit story, but it wasn't really unit. So it's nice, though, to see a unit story with the second Doctor, since that would soon be the format for the show. Also, I really like the Cybermen design in The Invasion. I think that's the best Cyberman design up to that point. And I'm quite fond of it. Also, the serial has a lot of iconic shots in Doctor Who history with the Cybermen walking around in the town, the city, in London. I thought that's pretty cool. But it's a little too long. I just don't think I think 8 parts is too long. I think it would have worked better as a 6-parter. It does tend to wear a little thin in places. And I don't really care for the animation used in the episodes. I know it was the first one to be animated, so I take that into account, but a lot of times they reuse shots in the animation and just kind of change the lip syncing of the voices, and that grates on me a little. Also, I do like the villain, the human villain in it. I don't know, I can't remember his name, but I really liked him a lot. The main guy who owned the company, he was really well done. Moving into the top 5, I should have put my glasses on. I really like the haunting of Villa, whatever the word is, from series 12 of the new series, because it's a different take on the Cybermen. Here we have one lone Cyberman who only shows up, halfway through the story, who's very different than any Cyberman we've ever seen. It's not often we ever really get just one Cyberman. This might be the first time we've ever gotten just one Cyberman, really. And think about it, some of the best Dalek episodes are when there's not a lot of them, when there's just one or a handful of them. They're more menacing, more threatening. So it's nice to see a story with just one Cyberman. Plus, the story itself's good. I like the kind of horror, creepy atmosphere of it. I like when they walk out of the room, they're walking back into the room with the room shifting. I like that. I like the lone Cyberman itself, because he's not a traditional Cyberman. I actually think that's a really good episode. Series 12 did actually have some pretty decent episodes and a couple really good episodes. And I thought that was a really good one. It was a nice change of pace for Doctor Who to see that. I like when they take a familiar villain and do something different with them sometimes. And in that case, I think it worked out. I like the lone Cyberman. Moving into number 4 on the list, we have the Age of Steel and Rise of the Cybermen, which will be the last entry for the modern series. The Cybermen get really shafted in modern Who. Most of the time, when they show up, they're pretty much made somebody else's servant or bitch, basically. Like in the Series 2 finale, Part 1, they're pretty threatening, but then the Daleks just kind of bitch slap them out of the way in Part 2. So they get sidelined, and the same thing happens when they end up just working for the Missy or the Master a couple times, and they just get... Seriously, they're like the modern series whipping boy. They'll start out in a 2-parter. The first part will usually be good, and then the second part, they usually suck. Even the World Enough of Time and Dr. Falls, Part 1 is great. Part 2 is not bad by any means, but it's not great. Definitely not good enough to get on this list, and I feel like they don't get used to their full potential a lot in modern Who. But the one time I think really nailed traditional Cybermen was in their first appearance, that 2-part of The Age of Steel. And I like that it's a different universe's Cybermen, so they can be slightly different. It would explain why their outfits aren't similar to their classic Who counterparts, because they come from a different evolution, from a different planet. They're actually from Earth instead of Mondos. And they sound different, they operate a little differently, they look different, but they still have a nice design. I actually don't mind that Cyberman design. It's a little more robotic than I like, but again, the fact it's in a parallel universe makes it work, and they actually feel threatening in it. The Cybermen do feel very threatening there. They feel like a threat. And that's the thing to me, is a good Cyberman story, they have to feel like a threat, like an actual threat. And all the ones remaining on this list, they do. They feel like a genuine threat. Good story. Nice to see their origin. I like how the origin's done. I like the guest stars in the episode, and Tennant's just amazing in it. So yeah, that's a good one. Moving up to number 3, Revenge of the Cybermen, one of the most underrated Doctor Who stories of all time. I did a video where I talked about some of Tom Baker's underrated stories, and this was number 1 on the list. Revenge of the Cybermen is phenomenally good. The only reason I think it doesn't get the respect it deserves is because the internet says so. And I think people have a bad habit of believing what they read on the internet. Especially if it's, say, for someone who's a modern Who fan who doesn't watch a lot of classic Who, and they hear a few people say it's not a good Cyberman story, they're going to think it's not a good Cyberman story. To which I say, go watch it yourself. It's a great story. I love the Cyberman design in it. I love the fact the Cyber Leader has a slightly different helmet, so it's easier to pick him apart. I love the interactions between the 4th Doctor and the Cyberman, because the 4th Doctor's not having any of their crap. He's constantly mouthing off to him. I love it. We are destined to be rulers of the galaxy. I don't think so somehow. You're just a bunch of tin soldiers floating around, in a junk spaceship or whatever it is he says. He's not intimidated by them at all. And this is also the only Cyberman story we get with Tom Baker's Doctor. And I think it's a good one. I love how he interacts with the Cyberman. We also have the people on the planet, I forget their names. I love their makeup because it's only one of those masks that... My sinuses always act up when I'm trying to tape something. They have those masks that only cover part of their heads, so they actually still have this part of their face free, so it's really easy for them to emote and do expressions. I love the little civil war they're having on their planet. That adds to the tension. It's a nice... I don't know if I want to say subplot or it ties into the regular plot really well, but that's really neat to see going on. I like the fact we learned that the Cybermen, gold is dangerous to them. I think that's might be a little silly, but I think it's pretty neat. I like that they referenced that in the latest series. I enjoy it. I think it's funny that they have to send the Doctor and his companions down in there to try to blow up the planet. The special effects that have been tweaked in the box set, the enhanced special effects really improve it. But at its core, it's just a good story. It's well written. The Cybermen seem like a threat in it. And to be honest, it's not that much different than Earthshock. Earthshock's just a slightly better version of it, and that moves into number 2 on my list, Earthshock. Revenge of the Daleks and Earthshock have very similar stories, much like the 10th Planet and Moonbase. They're very similar. Cybermen trying to destroy a planet, basically in a quest for revenge, although in Earthshock they're also trying to prevent the events in 10th Planet from happening. But they're very similar stories, actually. Earthshock just does it a little better. One, I also like the Cyberman design that's introduced in Earthshock. That's one of my favorite. That could be my favorite Cyberman design. That one and the one introduced in Invasion are my 2 favorites. And I love the fact we don't even notice the Cybermen there until the end of episode 1 of Earthshock. And considering that's the first time we've seen them since Revenge of the Cybermen, which is about 8 years. So imagine going 8 years without seeing the Cybermen. That's pretty neat. Earthshock is good. I mean, it's famous because Adric dies. But to me, it's the story itself that really works. Finding out that the Cybermen trying to destroy humanity inadvertently causes the asteroid, the impact that killed the dinosaurs that gave rise to humanity. The Cybermen still feel like a threat. There's so many of them on that ship. They actually do give you the impression that there's like thousands of Cybermen waiting to wake up there, even though they only have so many extras they can use. They actually pull that off really well. The special effects are really good, even in the original version, but I definitely love the enhanced effects that were on the DVD. And, of course, were added on the Blu-ray box set. The enhanced effects really help sell it. Earthshock it deserves its reputation. It's a good story. It's one of Davison's best. I actually don't mind the guest acting. I've heard the lady who plays the captain, she seems a little miscast, but I think she's fine in it. I enjoy it. Earthshock's a good one. Check it out. And number 1 on my list, my favorite Cybermen story of all time, is the Moonbase. And I know some people might be upset 10th Planet's not on the list. Let me start off by saying I like 10th Planet, especially the Cyberman design. I love that kind of creepy Frankenstein-looking Cyberman design. But Moonbase, there's similar stories, and I think Moonbase does it better. Although the Cyberman design in Moonbase I don't really care for, especially that weird 3-fingered hand. I much prefer 10th Planet Cyberman design over Moonbase's, but Moonbase is a better story. Patrick is great in it. I love Patrick's Doctor. He has some very famous lines of his here. That bit when they're in the room, he's like, "Did you have your men check in here? You said they checked everywhere." "Well, yes, they did. They checked in here." "Well, did they check in here?" And that's also the story where he gives his famous speech about there are some corners of the universe which have bred the most terrible things. That's from this one. It's a four-parter. Two of the episodes still exist, 2 and 4, and then 1 and 3 have been animated. And it's probably my favorite animation they've done so far. Really like the animation for Moonbase. It's really, really good. Much better than the animation from 10th Planet, even though I think they were done by the same people. But it's a good story. Again, the Cybermen feel like a threat. Watching the Cybermen walk around on the moon's surface is cool. Matter of fact, the animation actually does that really well. Probably better than the live action footage does, because there's so much more you can do with the animation. Seeing them walking across the field in the animation is really neat. But even the live action episodes, the way they're shot, you can tell the director did a good job of creating atmosphere and causing tension and fright, and it gives this really cramped feeling, kind of like Ridley Scott does in Alien. This really cramped, almost claustrophobic feeling. That's how I kind of feel like the Moonbase is. It has this kind of claustrophobic feel to it. It's just a really fun Cyberman story. If you haven't seen it, give it a shot. So yeah, these have been my top 5 favorite Cybermen stories from Doctor Who. If you've liked the video, click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications. Check out my main channel, Prowl1701, Prowl1701, where I review all things Star Wars, but especially lightsaber replicas. And most importantly, stay safe, and thank you for watching.